Can I just ask a quick question?
Of course you can, yeah, absolutely.
How do you, I mean, I'm not going to take 45 minutes to talk, probably be about 20 minutes or something. How do you want to do you like the student? I don't mind either way. Do you like to do questions at the end, or do you like them to dive in and during the chat and you manage
it's entirely up to you. Questions at the end might be an easier way of managing it. What do you think, Dan? We'd normally do them at the end.
Yeah, I think at the end's easiest, probably just for the flow of it. But if anyone has a burning question, I'm sure they'll put it in the chat.
All right, wicked.
Brilliant. I'd say probably good to get started. Yeah.
That's absolutely. I think we've got most people back now.
Brilliant.
Think as well, Joe, you might have responsibility because I don't think I can. We might be able to pin you, Russell, as well, make you nice and big for everyone to see.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah, make everyone's day. Fantastic.
I think, Joe, you might need to do that, and it's probably just on the 3 dots to be able to.
How do I do that?
If you hover over Russell's profile, there's 3 dots.
Right, I see.
And I think you can pin him.
Let me try that.
People have been trying to pin me for years. I'm just putting my old man rug over my knee before I start talking. It's bloody cold in London as well.
Yeah. Same up north.
Yeah, well, I'm from the north, so I am fully aware of how the temperatures can go.
I'm just blasting it. It's right there. I'm on full heat. I'm going to do all the energy. I'm actually a bit too hot right now.
Is that okay now, Dan?
I don't think it's pulled through from our side, and we're pinning just yet.
I think I can pin myself if that helps. It says pin. Should I try it?
Let's go with it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's terrifying. Now, how do I hide myself? That's the main. I'm not sure I want to pin myself. Hang on. Oh, I can look at that. Hide self view. No, that didn't work. Bugger. Okay. All right. I'll have to. It's a bit...
I think it's all done on an individual basis. To be honest, if I press the view top right corner and I just change that to speaker, then you become the main thing. I was on gallery seeing everyone, so I think everyone.
Right. I'm going to unpin myself then because it's actually terrifying seeing myself looking like that. And then will the so with my students, they hate putting the camera on. What happens with your guys? Do they? Is it silence and black screens?
We've got a mix. So the students are a mixture of, some are on, some are off, but the majority will be on.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
All good.
All right.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. You can start. I think everyone's joined. That's gonna be.
Oh, we're here. We're all in, are we?
Yeah. Everyone's in.
All right. Cool. I'll get started. All right then. So hello everyone. My name's Russell Miller. I'm an associate professor at Kingston University in creative entrepreneurship. I run courses in visual communication, and my industry background is in design and art direction, mostly working in digital for the last 30 years. Now, I don't have a whizzy presentation, but I've got some slide headings if this will come into view. Oh no, it's blurring it. Hang on, let me unblur my background. That might be messing it up. Right, let's try this again. Okay, so does that work? Nearly. Wait a minute, cancel. Right, didn't know this was going to be so complicated. So who the hell am I, right? So I am working class, born in the far northwest in Carlisle, from a council estate. First in my family to go to university, to go to art school. I got a general arts education, and in kind of fine art, I grew up I went to art school in the 90s. There was one computer in the library that let you look up books. So we were using photocopiers and 16mm film and 8mm film and UVHS and all of these dead technologies. And I'm mentioning this at the start because I'm going to do a little bit about sort of tech and creativity, because that's really where all my work has ever come from, is from being a sort of digitally engaged person and being able to use emerging tools for creative practices. And I think, given that the generation that you all are, I think it's relevant to talk about and really some of the dangers of relying too much on technology. So what did I do? So I went to art school, and then I got a job in advertising straight away because I could use Photoshop, because I did a little course. That was it. So digital has always helped my career and continues to help my career in what I do now. So I'm going to talk about some, if I can do this, tips for creative careers. So I've been in the game since 95, so before you were all born probably. And my tips are, and this is based on highs and lows in a career. Okay, so tip number one is make stuff, no matter what you're studying, what you're working at, what you're doing. It's super important to not expect to be fulfilled entirely by a job. Okay. You may love doing graphic design, you may love doing UX, you may love doing copywriting, or you may love doing strategy. But I think that to be a well-rounded, and I think more importantly, a highly employable creative person, you have to do more than the thing that you get paid for. So if you're working in a sort of creative sector in advertising, or looking to get a job in the sort of creative industries, I think it's really important to do something for you as well. And oh, hi, Beverly, graduated 2 years after me. Hello, good to see an old person there. So the reason why I'm telling you this is twofold, really. I know some of you are in lots of different stages of your careers. So you might be retraining to do something else, or you might be on the verge of maybe going into higher education, or you might just be kind of figuring out what the hell it is that you want to do with your life. I'm still working on that myself at my advanced stage. So people like me, old people that might give you a job one day, like creative director and art director and agency owner, who have done all of these roles, are always really interested in the kind of the person that sits outside the portfolio. So yes, you might have 20 or 30 amazing bits of branding, or amazing bits of UX, or whatever it is that you're doing to have a kind of commercial creative practice. But I promise you that the person that's talking to you, once you get past the kind of HR level, when you're talking to someone who maybe has experience of making stuff for brands, they will be so interested in what you do kind of on the side. And that really is, it could be life drawing, it could be writing poetry, it could be stand-up comedy, it could be photography, it could be performance art, it could be anything. I'll get into kind of commercial side hustles in a second, but I think that it's important because we want to see the kind of creative person that you are. And frankly, if all you've got is UX and branding and whatever, and that's it, it's a bit boring and it's a bit dull. And I think especially because 10-year-olds have amazing portfolios. I've seen them, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, they can do it already. So I think that wholly relying on one commercial practice in a portfolio, and this goes for, I think, getting a job or going into education. So again, someone like me would be looking through a portfolio, and we want to see a variety of stuff, and we want to see that you have kind of creative and cultural interests outside of the job that you want to do, right? So in my experience, my enormously long lived experience, the thing that I've been doing outside of the thing I've been getting paid for has always been the thing that got me a new opportunity. So when I was at art school, I was interested in digital stuff, but there wasn't any. So I did a free course for unemployed people when I graduated that gave me a bit of Photoshop-y bits and pieces. And I wasn't really doing it to get a job. I was doing it because it was a new creative tool to play with. That's what got me my first job, because then I could make some stuff digitally and prove to my first boss that I knew things that he didn't. You know, I knew how to make interfaces, and I knew how to make, you know, my God, screensavers on floppy disks. We'll talk about dead technology in a bit. So, and then when I worked at Radio 1. I was their head of design for online and events. And the thing that got me my job at Radio 1 is I was doing visuals in clubs for fun. And I had a kind of online radio show with some friends, and I was doing live visuals, blah, 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 till it's the late 90s, early 2000s, because I was a VJ, which don't exist anymore, a video jockey. So you went into clubs and you played visuals alongside the DJ guy. But that was the thing that got me my job at Radio 1, because yes, I could prove that I could design. And I'd worked for a couple of big broadcasters before that, Daily Mail, but I won't say anything about that. But the thing that got me my job was I could evidence my real love for music, because I was going out at the weekend and midweek and performing in clubs. You didn't get, you know, maybe you got 50 quid or some free beers, but, you know, it wasn't really about money. It was about pursuing a passion. And then fast forward to 2017, when I became a kind of full-time academic, if you like. The thing that got me my sort of second big job in academia, which is the one I'm in now, was the fact that I had an art practice, and I'd done some curation, and I had this background in industry, and I'd done some lecturing, but not much. I'd done some sort of visiting lecturing at a fashion school. But all these kind of disparate activities do, at the right moment, with the right job or the right opportunity, do kind of come together, and it makes you a more interesting hire than someone who maybe has done lots of lecturing and know what they're doing, but they don't have any art practice, and they don't have this and they don't have that. So it is a bit scattergun, my approach to my career, but it's been super interesting. And I've worked for lots of really cool companies, and I've ran my own agency, and I've been creatively engaged in lots of stuff, which for me was always the point, rather than climbing up the corporate ladder and earning more and more money. I wasn't too interested in that, even though I certainly had to make definite decisions not to do that at certain points. So make stuff for the fun of it. And then off the back of that is side hustles. So whatever that is, right? It doesn't have to be necessarily kind of visually led or creative, but if you upcycling stuff on Depop, or selling clothes on Vinted, or doing, I don't know, customized nail art, or you're doing people's hair, or you're doing makeup, or whatever it is. Again, it's super interesting to people like myself when we're looking to either give people a place on a university course or give them a job. And we are really interested in hearing about it. And I think that one mistake that I'm going to say nascent creatives rather than young, because we have all sorts of people here. One mistake that nascent creatives do when they're applying, especially when they're applying in higher education to come on a creative course, is that they don't include things that they think are not relevant. And sometimes it's a bit like getting blood out of a stone, trying to find out about, you mention in one line in your personal statement that you have an online shop, but we don't have any screen grabs of it, and we don't really have any information about it. And invariably it's, Oh, I've got 25,000 followers on Instagram because I do graffiti and I do things on t-shirts, and it's amazing to hear that stuff. So put that kind of front and center, put your side hustle at the front and center of your interview process, or interview portfolios, or education portfolios, or whatever it is relevant, because it shows. You might not think, if you're applying for, say, I don't know, a graphic design job or a UX job, that it's relevant to include something about your Depop shop, for instance. But it shows organizational skills, entrepreneurial skills. It shows a kind of will to do something other than take a wage. So it shows initiative. And if you've got a lot of people following you, or you've made a lot of sales, or you've got, like, you know, the way you've branded your shop, the way that you manage your shop, you can use a CMS. It shows you're organized. It shows you've got digital skills, all of this really cool stuff. We're really interested in hearing about that. Okay, so yeah, tech. We're all tech-led. Here we are. Don't obsess about tech. And there's a few words at the bottom of that. So CD-ROMs, Vine, remember Vine? Snapchat spectacles, floppy disks. So I've worked with all of these dead technologies, and the only thing that they have in common is that they all go to the technological graveyard at some point. So my first ever job was with a company called Interactive Solutions, snappy name, and they hired me because they had a client called the Camping and Caravanning Association, who printed a book. This is 1995 we're talking about. They printed a book, and it was of campsites and caravan sites. To all the people out there that have had the internet from when you were born, this catalogs and books were our Twitter, if you like, our online. So they had this book, and they wanted to turn it into a CD-ROM. And that was my job, turning something that was printed into something that was digital. Now, at the time, CD-ROM was the cutting edge of technology, because people didn't really have the internet, and there wasn't really an internet. So when I started working online, there was genuinely about 15 websites in the world, and they were mostly bulletin boards. So people would kind of exchange messages on them. You couldn't really upload lots of images because you were doing everything through your phone line. If you recognize the gadang 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 noise, that's how we used to get online. Your mum would pick up the phone and go, "Get off the internet," because she could hear all the kind of fax machine noises. So CD-ROMs, you put them in your beige tower PC, and then it let you watch some videos or read some articles. And in this case, it let you kind of browse whether a campsite in Reigate had a toilet or not. I mentioned in my first job because I'm going to talk a little bit about not being obsessed with your first job as well, because I ended up doing some really cool stuff. You know, I branded One Extra. I worked at Radio 1. I ran my own studio. I've done loads of things for Channel 4 and Sony Music and Samsung and Peroni. I've worked with some huge brands. But that first job of designing that camping and caravanning CD-ROM, you know, it was not the sexiest gig in the world, but my God, it stayed with me a long time. So that technology died. Doing Vines died. Doing stuff for Snapchat spectacles died. My second job was making a screensaver that had to fit on a floppy disk, because it was being sent out. It was for an oil company, and they wanted a screensaver that they could send to the people that worked on oil rigs. So the floppy disk, which was a hard disk thing, wasn't floppy, my one. It was like 1.2 meg you could fit on it, which is about the size of an image you'd take on your phone now. In fact, it's probably a quarter of the size of the image you take on your phone now. So technology dies, right? So it's not, whilst it's good to understand, play with, work with tech, when soon as you only work with that technology, I think you're kind of putting yourself into a bit of a cul-de-sac. And as someone who's had a long career in the creative industries, I can tell you now there won't be a Facebook in 20 years' time, right? There won't be what are Meta doing at the moment? VR headsets, right? There won't be any VR headsets. It'll all be in the bin. There'll be glasses like this maybe that do the same sort of thing. So don't obsess about tech, but do engage with it and do, use it, kind of pop it while it's hot, use it while it's sexy. But then you've got to keep your eyes on the horizon and keep moving forward. So when I was, I don't know, in my 20s, I was earning quite a lot of money doing web design, right? Now, you could see with the emergence of content management systems, like what were some of the early ones, like PageMill. Things came out where you could make websites easily without kind of designing and coding them. That got really big in the mid 2000s when the bottom started to fall out of the market of web design. And you have to kind of go, why are my budgets going down? Why aren't I getting as much work? Oh, there's all these ways that clients can make their own websites much easier. So why are they going to pay me 15 grand to design something? So you really got to keep an eye on tech and how it's going to change your creative job. And it just means engaging with this stuff as it comes out. I'm going to talk a bit about generative AI in a bit. Generative AI will turn into something else, but at the moment it's the kind of hot technology, and it is changing jobs and will change jobs. So we'll come back to that in a minute, but my next bit of tip is wobble around. I've done lots of bits and pieces. What does it say here? Fine art. So I've got an art practice, did fine art, went back to art school when I was 40 to do my master's. I've worked lots in advertising and marketing, started a brewery about 5 years ago with some mates, and now I'm an academic. Now, none of this was planned beyond, I knew I wanted to be a creative person. As I say, I'm from a council estate with no connections, no idea that there was an advertising industry, no idea that jobs like graphic design existed, because we didn't have the internet to ask. We had careers advisors who also didn't know that advertising industry existed or graphic design was a job, So the only plan I had was to never really work in an office. That's genuinely been my only plan. I don't want to be a suit and tie guy, and I don't want to have that kind of office job where you kind of move up and, I don't know, whatever, go to a different job. That was the only plan I had. And I knew I was a kind of creative person. I just knew I wanted to be a creative person and get paid somehow. So that's what I've ended up doing. Now, how you get paid to be a creative person, there's so many ways you can do that. It's not all about making visuals. You can be creative with presenting. I'm trying to give you a kind of creative presentation in the way that I'm structuring this talk. Strategy can be creative. Copywriting is creative. It's not about making visual things. But I think that because you're on this kind of course and you're kind of aiming at being in the creative industries, I want to congratulate you on making a really good choice, because even though technology dies, what technology brings in the creative industries are always new opportunities and new jobs, and it makes it a tremendously exciting space to work in. Because if you're a accountant or a lawyer or even a doctor, your job has kind of stayed the same. Accountancy's got to account, and doctor's got to doc, and lawyer's got a law. But with this job, with this sector that we work in, so AI art director, Instagram producer, social media video maker, social media wasn't around 15 years ago. That job didn't exist. So new opportunities come and other opportunities disappear. So no more web design jobs. Okay, fine. What do we do now? We find something else to do in the industry. So there's always lots of different companies that grow, lots die, but there's always this kind of re-energizing of the sector. And there's millions and millions of jobs you can do. Creative industry includes people who play flutes in orchestras. and it includes people like me that, you know, might curate art shows, or I'm making a comic using generative AI at the moment. There's lots of spaces to be paid to do stuff, and there's lots of spaces to kind of play to satisfy your own creative desires and creative needs. So, bit more on that. Opportunities are vast, but do accept that you will start at the bottom. Camping and caravan CD-ROMs, you know, email bloody headers that I made millions of, ad banners, all of this rubbish that, you know, you have to do to learn what it's like to have a job in a studio or work with a bunch of people. My students, I run a course called Art Direction. One of the courses I run, one of the BAs that I run, is called Art Direction. And some, if not all of my students, think that by doing a 3-year BA with Art Direction in the title, they leave and will get a job as an art director. Not going to happen, right? You've got to get, it doesn't really matter what's on your degree, you know, you've got to get some experience, and really boring things like turning up on time, making sure that you go to that meeting, being able to write an email without a load of spelling mistakes in it. They're all super important, and they've got to be kind of provable before you can begin working your way up or sideways or whatever you want to do. But yeah, don't expect, I want to be a creative director, my first job will be a creative director. You want to be a creative director, your first job will be writing terms and conditions for a email that's going out about an energy company. It will be making a header image that's going to sit on the top of an email or something like that. So, but I think embrace those tiny opportunities that you get, because if you're reliable, if you're dedicated, if you're friendly, if you're nice, all of these, you know, things matter in industry. You will get on. And I think that it's just kind of I think the difficult thing is figuring out initially where you're going to start, and then kind of what directions you want to take in, because opportunities open up and you meet people that do different kinds of jobs that you do in different kind of companies. And yeah, I think that's the trickiest thing, really, because you have so many opportunities. It's not, as I say, you wobble around. It's not as simple as I begin here in 2025 and I work here and leave in 2080. You know, you're just not going to have those kind of careers. They don't exist anymore. I haven't had that kind of career. I probably should have had about 4 jobs in my life because of my age, but I've had many jobs and literally hundreds of roles, projects that I worked on, having to kind of emphasize different skill sets depending what job that you do, especially when you're freelancing and running your own studio, which I did. You have to kind of nod your head and say, yeah, I can do it, and then run away and find out how to do it. So a bit of blagging, you know, a bit of confidence comes in. Yeah, don't stop learning. Here we go. Don't stop learning. That's not official learning. That can be unofficial learning. I decided at 40 that I wanted to do my MA in fine art for a long time, and I did it at 40. I maybe should have done it a few years earlier, but I don't know, I was busy working. So I stopped working and I went and did a master's full time. And then after a year, I ran out of money and went, oh my God. And I went back to do some work, and I carried on doing my master's part-time. But again, that was something that helped me change career, get new opportunities. It showed that I was self-starting and interested in my own creative practice as well as commerciality. I think as well, it means you have you're all going to work for a long time. You know, I've been working for a long time and will continue to work. But I think that if you are still learning for pleasure, really, it'll mean that you have a more sustainable career and more opportunities. I promise you, more opportunities will come up. Quick one on Gen AI. Gen AI, what does it say? Already changing your career. So it is already changing your career. Generative AI, if you don't know, is like large language models like ChatGPT, Midjourney, DALL-E, Leonardo. There's tons of them. Okay. Jobs where you would have been writing some social media copy done by AI, call center jobs, people dealing with your problems done by AI. We're going to get to the point where accountants and AI, kind of lawyers working on non-criminal cases, solicitors, sorry, will be done by AI. AI follows rules really well. So if your job entails knowing what rules are and applying them, that job will be done by AI. So again, congratulations for being interested in the creative industries, because whilst Gen AI will get rid of some jobs, it will bring loads of other jobs, like I was saying earlier about technology. Already, AI art director is a job. I've seen fashion magazines where all of the images and couture is done by generative AI. We've got video makers that are using AI. Virtual production is using it. It's a real, I think it is. I don't think it's quite penetrated the mainstream yet, but in the kind of world that I inhabit, it's as big a change. It's a bigger game changer as like the internet being invented. I think it's changing my creative practice. I really enjoy playing with it. There's loads of ethical questions around AI, which we haven't got time to go into today. Interestingly, I find younger people who I work with are very suspicious of this stuff. As an old person myself, I know more about it than 19-year-olds, which I'm astonished by, because I'm interested in it as a new creative tool to work with. But if you've used, generative fill in Photoshop, you've used AI. If you've used Grammarly to check for spelling mistakes, you've used AI. So you're already kind of using it under the hood. But I would encourage you to go onto DALL-E, go onto Midjourney, get a ChatGPT account and just start understanding this stuff, because when you get a job and the older probably person who hires you, they won't know anything about generative AI. And they're looking to people like you to tell them and to inform them and to kind of explain what it does and show what they do. So yeah, AI. Interested in a business and creative degree, then I run these. So art direction, design, marketing, and events and experiences design. You can look on the Kingston website, or you can find me on LinkedIn, or you can find me. I'm happy for my email address to go out there if you want to have a chat about it. But I run courses that we're trying to give people sustainable careers by not just teaching them creative practices. So as I say, everyone's got a good folio. Everyone can use a bit of Photoshop. Everyone can use a bit of generative AI. But being able to have a little bit of business knowledge and entrepreneurial activities, really melded with creative stuff, is quite a different experience, I think, than kind of studying one creative practice for 3 years. I think the other thing I'd say is we don't deal with disciplines, and this is a general thing. I think I'm not just talking about my courses. I think it's a general rule, good rule to have. If you do one thing, typography, right? It's difficult to do other things because you're only working with one bit of technology or one bit of creative practice. But if you are interested in kind of bopping around, I would be a bit of a kind of multidisciplinarian, make some videos, do some fonts, take some photos, write some poetry, whatever it is. I think that it's really good to be very varied and not specialized in this sort of creative sector, I would say. Some resources quickly for you, and then I'm going to stop for questions. So job resources and opportunity resources, there's some here, right? So there's an app called Eric, which is very good. It connects people that are interested in internships and opportunities with companies. There's one called Fashion Working as well, which is internships and jobs. It's not all fashion, it's kind of creative industry stuff. There's a new one called Wonder What. Have a look at that. It's wonderwhat.co.uk, and it helps you maybe decide what kind of creative job you want to do. And LinkedIn is actually fab as well. It's a nice, friendly, welcoming space. And if you have a LinkedIn account and you put up a message saying, I'm this kind of person, I'm looking for these kind of opportunities, you will get some help out there. It's not a nasty place like Twitter. That's me done. Thank you. I'll take some questions if anyone has any.
I've got one.
Hi.
Love the presentation, by the way. The way you was holding up the computer. That's great. Yeah, I've recently come into a digital marketing space. I've come from a housing background, but I've been like you were saying, for years I've been doing a lot of building websites, designing, writing, copy for websites. I've been doing all that for years, and then I started doing my own stuff, and then I started to realize that, you know what, this is what I've always wanted to do. But it's late in the day for me, and I was thinking, can I really just like switch, career moves like that at such a point in my life? But I made the decision to do it because it just made me feel good. So I thought, you know what, just go with what you feel and see where it takes you. So here I am. And so I really, understand a lot of the stuff you're saying. And it's nice to hear someone say what you've been saying. And, it fills me with promise. Although I'm starting from the very bottom, I'm looking at, I'm doing my own stuff online, but I'm looking to get into some sort of beginner's work, apprenticeship or something like that. I don't know what advice you could give me on that point, really, where I could start, because I've done a bit of everything, and I love designing. I love doing marketing projects and doing campaigns and stuff like that. Being on this course has really opened my eyes to a lot of areas. So I'm kind of just wondering that, how I'll move forward from here in relation to, possible.
Yeah, I would say get some professional experience, which could be around like volunteering. Like lots of charities need people like you to do graphics and write copy and help them with their digital stuff. I think that's a good thing to do, where you might give up some time for free, but actually what you're getting is relevant current industry work for your portfolio. So I would suggest that. And then I would suggest looking on some of those resources that I suggested. So Eric is great for finding out what opportunities are out there from kind of entry level stuff. I think that just to kind of touch on the point of view of being a bit, kind of starting later in life, right? Mm-hmm. I think that I think more and more it's becoming much more normal to do that. And the Mrs. Bates versus the post office, Mr. Bates versus the post office, sorry, the thing that's been on TV and caused all the, finally politicians to take some note. The writer of that was 70 years old. The lady that wrote that, yes, she was 70 years old. She wrote the thing, but her background was in journalism. So she changed career late in life. I think that it's we're all living and working longer. So I think that in terms of creative jobs being just for young people, I really don't see that. My lived experience isn't that. And I think that there's a huge value on maturity, reliability, and also I think people who make an active decision to change their career, it says a lot about the person rather than maybe carrying on doing something that they don't love or they're bored or whatever. So I think that put yourself out there. I mean, have you got a portfolio together that you can show people?
I haven't actually. I've got loads of stuff I could put one together. But I would
advise you need some kind of presence online, whether that's a link tree with just links to stuff you do or an actual website, portfolio website, which
I definitely
super easy to do for nothing these days, like Wix, and Wix do a completely free one. there's cargo, there's loads. But I mean, even a PDF with images on it that you can either stick on a drive, a virtual drive somewhere, and you can. People want to see a link, show me what you can do. But I think that it doesn't have to be a kind of super whizzy, graphic designed website. They just want to see evidence of what you can do and what packages you can learn. So yeah, do that. Get yourself a website and then start finding people that you want to work with. I mean, the other thing that I did, there was like some bands that I liked, and I just mailed them when I was about, in my early 30s, I think. I just mailed them going, do you need any help? And a couple of them went, yeah. And I designed their album covers. And so maybe artists that you admire, or bands that you like, or charities that you want to help with, approach them. Don't think that they don't want to know, because they might bite your arm off,
Yeah, the point you made about, I've got a lot of nieces and nephews, and like, they don't know anything. They don't know anything about this stuff. It's amazing. I was contacting them to see if they could tell me about some stuff, and then they haven't got a clue.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, I think as well, the something that I'm very kind of passionate about is not being a middle class gatekeeper in the creative industries, because obviously most jobs are middle class jobs in education and academia. Most professors and admissions people are middle class, and I think that there's a complete lack of arts education at state school. So it's getting to the point where, to know stuff, like you say, your nieces and nephews don't know about these things, you've got to be privately educated. Your parents or your grandparents or someone is a connection in industry, and then you know about this stuff. So I think there's a paucity of information for young people who go to comprehensive schools like I did. And it's the same experience that I had. Nobody knew then, and now they still don't know in these spaces. So I think that part of my job is really making sure that people know that this is a welcoming industry. It really is. If a kind of vaguely arsey northerner like me can get on, then really anybody can. So I'll get yourself out there, mate. I'm sure you do well. If you want to drop me a line, happy to chat anytime.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks.
I need to plug my laptop in because the power's going to go. So give me 2 seconds. Charger. Sorry, I find my chart up there. Okay. Right. Cool. Lost my glasses. Right. Anybody else?
I think Jay's got his
Yeah, I've got a question. My question is, like, how do you stay motivated when a lot of this stuff, like entering a new industry or like learning about stuff on your own, like how do you stay motivated when a lot of it's like done off your own back? Like if you haven't got many connections in the industry, how do you like kind of keep going?
Yeah, I mean, will is a big thing. You've really got to. I think I was very lucky in that I was very lucky because I had a really brilliant arts education in a comprehensive, right? So I had a great teacher, and then I had a free education doing a degree. So I'm very privileged in that I think that I wouldn't be talking to you. I definitely wouldn't be talking to you today if I hadn't had those opportunities. So I think it was kind of, I had a bit of a helping hand. And I understand how difficult it is when you kind of, everything costs money to do, as well as even getting access to software. I think I mean, what is it that you want to do? What is it that you actually want to, or what vague ideas have you got of what you want to do?
Well, I'm looking at like the plan, like the overall goal is probably to be able to freelance in whatever it may be. Like I'm interested in photography, but I mainly want to do like digital marketing and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like a lot of it's like, I think it's gonna have to be going into like agency work first and get a bit of agency work so I actually know how to like, sit down on my own and do like what I'm tasked with, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
it makes total sense. I wouldn't advise anyone to dive straight into freelancing because it's difficult. It's kind of low level terror at all times because you're going job to
Yeah.
job. And I think that it becomes a less daunting proposition when you know people, as you say, and that way of knowing people is to start at the bottom and get those jobs
Okay, yeah.
where you are cropping images or writing copy for terms and conditions or whatever it is. I think that the experience, as you say, experience of sitting down and being organized and motivated and being able to work independently are all things that need to be learned. You know, none of us is taught, none of this is taught at school or even at,
No.
not so much at university. You know, you're kind of told to get on with it and you've got to get on with it. So yeah, I would suggest you get some experience before you dive into the freelance world. And I think that in terms of motivation, I think that some of the things I've talked about, like making stuff for fun, that's that's
Okay.
a really good way of disconnecting the kind of, I suppose I'll use the word commerciality, but really like not everything has to be about getting the next big thing, you know.
Yeah, like corporate type, I know what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
you can get a bit messed up if because you have strings of disappointments and it can affect your confidence. Like,
Yeah.
personally, I've had a dreadfully disappointing January so far because I got turned down for this thing that I spent a month writing the proposal for. So even with loads of experience, you know, you get shot down. And I think that if you're only ever trying to do those things and you're getting, you know, knocked back, which will happen, you know, it can dent your confidence. And I think if you're making stuff for fun for you, it has a dual effect, really. One is it's not about I need to get paid more money, I'm doing this thing. It's about I'm doing this to learn something, or I'm doing it to find something out, or I'm just doing it for the pleasure of doing it, you know. And that is a good way of kind of being creative, if you like, being motivated, but it doesn't involve any other agencies, it doesn't involve any other people, it's just you. And I think, you know, if you're struggling a bit with sitting down and doing it, well then if you sit down and do something fun, you've got something fun. And I think, you know, the other thing is if you are, I don't know, learning a bit about generative AI by making fun things, it's a really employable skill that will, you know, help you as you, even just with things to talk about, you know. I promise you that when you go for an interview, they'll look at your work or they'll look at your CV and they'll say something like, but what else do you do? And having a what else, even if it's, well, I've become very interested in generative AI and I've been making stuff in Mid-Journey, that's really positive, you know. So I think, yeah, do stuff for the pleasure of it. And in my experience, it always ends up with commercial value, you know, the thing that you're doing for fun. I think unless it's kind of, you know, I don't know, cage fighting or something, maybe not. But I think creatively, if you're doing things for fun, it'll help your creative career for sure. And good luck, mate, whatever you do.
Right. Yeah, you say about cage fighting, but like that is like one of my things as well.
You're kidding me. Yeah. Okay, all right, then we'll do the cage fighting for fun. I think it might not help you get a job in digital marketing, that's all, unless you beat the crap out of someone and get their job. All right, anyone else?
I think we have a question from Jade.
Yeah, I was just going to say thanks for your talk, but also my question's really around, I guess, finding the right opportunities. I was thinking about it when you talked earlier about kind of not wanting to climb the corporate ladder, and I've probably spent the first kind of 7 years of my career doing a bit of that and not really finding joy in it. And now I've come in to do this to find something a bit different, but I guess the challenge that I have is, how do I know what the right opportunity to take is? I think it's difficult. I'm in a quite secure, stable job at the moment, and leaving that and going and doing something completely different is scary. And I think, but exciting and something that I want to do. But I think that there's a fear of, what if this isn't the right thing to jump on?
I think that anything worth doing has, it contains risk. I think that so I'll give you an example of what happened to me. I had the stablest of stable jobs. I was working at the BBC. So BBC is an astonishingly stable place to work. And I was working in a dream job, Radio 1, music. For those of you that are old enough, going to John Peel sessions every week, getting free records, going to gigs all the time. Dream job. But after 4 years, I was bored, because it's the same brand and the same sector, and you kind of end up, I've done all that, and then here we are again, we're redesigning the branding, or we're redesigning the website or whatever. So I went freelance then. So I was really in a good place, and I could still be there now, very easily, if I hadn't gone. I'm bored. And it was slightly rash, I think, as well. My missus was, "Are you out of your mind?" And I went, "No, it feels right." So a lot of it, the gut instinct does mean something. I think that stability versus joy or creativity or excitement is a constant. It's a bit of a battle to take there. I think that one thing, perhaps if you've got the option of working less days in your stable job whilst beginning to do something else, that's probably how I should have done it at the Beeb. I probably should have negotiated to work there maybe 2-3 days a week, and then started off this other thing. But I kind of threw myself in at the deep end. So yeah, I think that a main thing would be like if there's this opportunity that you think, is this the right opportunity? But it's creative and it's sexy, but I'm going to be earning half the money and blah blah blah. Do you like the people that you will be working with? I think that is a key thing in any career, really. But I think creative people can be a bit difficult, and I'm speaking from my own experiences. I can be difficult. We can be challenging collaborators if we're control freaks. We can be passionate about what we think, which can lead to some conflict. But I really do think it seems like such a facile thing to say, but working with people that you like, working with people that are nice, and really choosing not to work with people who aren't. I mean, you can imagine in advertising how many people I met who did like me, but also really objectionable people, coke snorting, flipping ad men from the 80s. Or, "Oh yeah, I'll tell you what, all of this, really quite mind-numbingly awful people." But you don't have to work with them. So I turn, conversely, I think if you're talking about leaving stability to do something exciting, I've turned down loads of exciting opportunities because of the kind of people that I would work with. So I think a bit of intel about what the people are like. Go for a drink with them, find out. You do not want to be in a room full of people that you go, I'm doing this job, but I cannot stand who I'm with. It's not worth it. It's better to work with people that you have a laugh with than people that you can't stand. And I think that goes for any job in the world. So, but take the risk. Take the risk, because we're all going to die. So you might as well have a bit of fun, and work is work and jobs are jobs, and you can take it all very seriously. I have done in the past. I think with a bit of age you get a bit of distance and go, actually what's important is my dog having a good walk, and eating a nice meal and having a good night out with your friends. And jobs are not that important, but I think it's important to try and enjoy what you do. Otherwise, it's a very long 60-year career of working hell, you know, so you might as well have a bit of fun while you do it. What can you mind me asking what you're doing at the moment and what you want to do?
So I work in finance at the moment. Very exciting.
I bet you work with some nice people.
And I just want to do something creative, to be honest. I'm really people orientated, but I've spent a lot of time feeling like I don't know, when you work for a large corporation, there's a lot of change takes a lot of time, doesn't it? And so I think I just aspire to be somewhere where I've got a bit more flexibility to be creative and create things and problem solve and
yeah. So what about thinking about taking those finance skills and moving into the sort of creative industry sector with them? Because agencies need finance people, they need account managers, they need client directors. I mean, there's loads and loads of jobs that, you know, initially it might not be about sitting down and creating something, but being in that environment and being around people and opportunities that might come up and hearing about jobs and things, it might be a change of environment with the same skill set or some of the same skill set is a way of you transitioning into a different sector, you know, rather than throwing it all in the bin and then going, I'm going to do this. There might be some aspects of it that you can bring with you that would be really valued. And I mean, you know, most creative people that I know, they're not good with numbers and finance and Excel spreadsheets, and, you know, gives me a migraine. So I think that you could maybe you could look at the kind of sector that you're working in, as opposed to, you know, in straight away changing jobs. There might be a way you could ease in.
Yeah, thank you.
I think Sophia has a question as well.
More of a just a statement from what it's been said. Again, I love all the people that you've brought on for us to listen to, and your honesty is amazing in just that, you know, the things that you've done and achieved, but some of them you haven't been able to achieve. So I'm definitely love the fact that you've been very honest about that. One of the things that I've found in this particular course was the age for me. So I love that, what you said, because I went back to uni when I was 32. And then I literally I went into it and I was going to go with the BBC, but the jobs just weren't available. My age was like, oh, you know, and then 10, sorry, I'm going to say 10, but it's more years later. But about today, especially, I'm not looking for a job. I've literally built my business. And one of the things that I can honestly say to anybody is that when you work for a company, get the experience from working in that company for who you want to be and what type of freelancer you want to do. My worst job was my dream job, and I learned how to own a business from that job. I've been 100% hated every day going, but I know that I run my photography business because of what I learned there. And I walked out of my job, and I didn't tell my partner for 5 days. I kept pretending I was going to work, and I hated it. But I'm doing something that I absolutely love. So I just love what you were saying. And I think age for this particular thing for me is a double-edged sword. I'm so confident because I'm older.
Yeah.
I'm not scared to go out and find the jobs. But I'm also older, and I feel like sometimes I doubt myself because of the younger people. So it's a double-edged sword. But just listening to what you said has given me confidence in saying, just keep doing it, keep going, you know. Brilliant. So I just wanted to appreciate what you've said today.
It's very appreciated you saying that. Can I ask, without you maybe naming the company, can I ask what the job was that you hated so much?
It was a marketing company, and it was property marketing, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be like Devil's Prada, walk into this city office dressed up every day, you know, client meetings, and I discovered that, you know, my talents for media was really viable there, but they didn't use me. They didn't use me in the right areas. And what's funny enough is that some of my old colleagues have said to me, do you know, they were always looking at your page going, we really didn't use this young lady. And I'm like, wow, but that gives me like, yeah, I just wasn't used. But it was my dream job, and I just wasn't happy.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
as you say, you know, you've got to try that dream job to go, oh my God, I don't like this. And some direction.
People.
Well, that's brilliant. I'm so glad that you found it useful. I'm so glad that
thank you so much.
You're doing your thing. Cool.
Yeah, I think we have a few more questions if you still have some time, Russell.
I could probably do another 10 minutes. How's that? Is that all right? Yeah, cool.
So we've got a question from Emily, and then Kate, and then Busayo.
Yeah, hi. I appreciate staying a bit longer.
That's all right, no problem, no problem.
Hi. Hey, I just was wondering, how do you like find a good balance between like being a creative and then also like gaining experience? Because I started off in fine art and then I've just gone straight into like freelance graphic design. And I do like side pieces and like post stuff on my Instagram, but it all feels like self-promotion sometimes, like even when I'm just like making. I don't know, it feels like I lose some of my creative skills just working in a graphic design job at the moment.
So are you worried about everything that you're doing is commercial? Is that what you're worried about?
Yeah, always like, I don't know, like I'll post my art and stuff and it'll be like on my Instagram, but like it has to be like, yeah, kind of commercial.
I would, and I absolutely understand your struggle here, because what do you do with this stuff that you make? You know, what do you do with it? And I think that sometimes you don't have to do anything with it. It's the point of making it. So you don't have to put it on your Instagram. You know, you don't have to promote it. You don't have to tell the world or show the world work that's maybe a bit more personal to you. So I think that it comes back to will again. You know, I know how hard it is to work all day and come home and do something. It's astonishingly hard because, you know, if you commute, that can suck the life out of you. Sitting in an office can suck the life out of you. What I found very difficult is because my kind of art practice and my day job are all very much screen digital based. My eyes are just buggered after 8 hours of maybe doing Photoshop or something. So then when I get in to do something again on a screen, can be really challenging, you know. But I would just encourage you to keep doing your thing. Maybe in terms of you've got a fine art practice, maybe having a show. So not putting stuff on Instagram, organizing a show wherever that is, get a venue or get a pub or get a something and put a little one night show on, maybe do it with some friends and just do it for the fun of it. Honestly, just make sure what I was very bad at, and I'm still bad at, is kind of archiving stuff that you do. Because as a doer, I like the doing. I'm not so interested in the record of the doing. But I think it can be useful to actually, you know, be able to show evidence of stuff that you've done outside of your work thing. So I would just really wish you the best luck in the world and just do it for pleasure. And if it's making you uncomfortable putting stuff on Instagram because you feel like you're promoting yourself, well then fuck Instagram. Don't put it on there, you know. Put it somewhere where you can. I think publishing is really positive because there is a danger that everything ends up on a hard drive and you never look at it. And again, I'm guilty of all these things, you know, being a disorganized sort of file manager type person. So you could put stuff on a website that is private. You know, you can have a website with cargo where you don't have to pay any money for it. And the thing that you pay money for is to make the site public. But if you want to have a kind of repository of your stuff, you could put it on a cargo website and don't make it public. You could put it on a private Instagram and don't have any followers and don't invite someone. But being able to look at stuff for yourself outside of a computer or outside of a sketchbook, I think is super positive. But I wouldn't worry about this conflating the two. It's really okay to have this thing that you do for money and this thing that you do to fulfill you creatively in some other way. And if I promise you that there will be times when, you know, these things help each other. That's definitely been my experience, like multiple times over the decades. It hasn't just happened once. It's happened kind of every time I've wanted to move somewhere different. This other stuff in my kind of armory, it has been the reason to kind of push me in a certain direction.
Thank you. That was really interesting.
You have a question, Kate?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you about so my background is in fine art as well, but I've been like a swim teacher and a lifeguard since I was really young.
Yeah.
So when I graduated, I found getting into the creative industry not intimidating, but I found it difficult because I was undiagnosed ADHD and autism. And only recently found out about those. So it's just been such a lot. I think it's I'm probably grasping on what other people have said and stuff. But I'm just wondering, is it worth it still if I find those industries rough because I'm unmedicated? I don't take ADHD medication and stuff, and I do find it a bit overwhelming. So I don't know if they become more accommodating to that or less so.
I think that, I mean, I've got ADHD. I think that I think it can be, I find it a bit of a superpower in terms of being creative.
Like, I love the good parts of it, but if it's like a bad week, it's a bad week kind of thing. I think
that so neurodiversity in the workplace is taken extremely seriously now. I think that 10, 15 years ago, it was just a completely unknown factor. You know, there was only kids that had ADHD, and now it's, you know, been realized that it doesn't really matter how old you are. So I think that I wouldn't worry about will it be accepted. The employment laws, you have to be treated the same as everybody else.
Yeah. Okay. Would you be upfront acknowledging it, or would you kind of leave it off?
I wouldn't put it on your CV.
Yeah.
But I think that it could come up in conversation in interview. But I don't know. It depends if you're comfortable declaring a disability or not. And I mean, I don't see it as a disability, to be honest.
I don't either. It's just been hard to sort of acclimatize myself to those environments. Like swim teaching children and adults is a completely different arena than sitting in a creative office. Like I love being in the studio and I love doing like messy studio work. But I don't know how to get a job surrounding that, which is ideally what I'd love. And like,
I mean, I think as well that perhaps that
teaching that other side of things as
perhaps as well that it given that we're kind of post-COVID and, you know, like in 2018 we probably wouldn't be doing this on Zoom, you know, but now we are. So maybe it's not a kind of all or nothing thing, in that I think it's unlikely that you'll be working 5 days a week in an office somewhere. When you do, you know, break through into your first job, it's more likely to be you'll spend a couple of days there and some time working at home. So that kind of balance might, you know, maybe that's what you should be.
I think I need to change my mindset a bit, really, because I've literally just been in a swimming pool with children for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is you're gonna need a desk at some point involved and dry land. So maybe it is a bit of a, but maybe, you know, perhaps
it's a huge shift. Like I say, like I've got my private practice and stuff, but it's super private. So I'm trying to like put my creativity back out there again.
I think the comments about publishing stuff can be really useful.
You said some very helpful things just prior.
And then I think that you know, maybe one way that you could, because you're in the pool, right? Are you in the pool 5 days a week?
Not as much anymore. No, we're like 1 day a week.
1 day a week. So maybe is there a kind of 1 day a week, you know, job in an office that you could do just to get used to the environment? And it wouldn't.
That's kind of what I've been thinking. Yeah.
and maybe it's something that is, you know, do a temporary, you know, do a not freelance, but
Yeah, I was kind of
a short
looking into like
contract.
virtual assistant stuff just to kind of get on somebody else's schedule, if that makes sense. Because
Yeah.
obviously, like swimming revolves around my schedule and they book in. So yeah, I was thinking virtual assistant work and stuff, but I'm like you, I like to be creative and I like to be active and making things. Numbers kind of hurt.
Yeah, I really do. I feel sick when someone sends me an
I've
Excel.
been practicing, but they still
the,
are really loud.
yeah, when you get to my age, I just go, oh, could you look at it for me? And then one of my kind colleagues will interpret Excel for me. But yeah, it is one thing. I know I talked about keeping in touch with technology and learning new things, but actually some things
Within a
you
certain
just
arena,
don't need to.
like
I can't be doing with Excel. It makes me what I can make films using generative AI, and I cannot make 2 columns in Excel and copy something. I've tried, I can't do it. So do some little jobs, get on a desk with some people around you and see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
I think we have one last question from Busayo. I'm just conscious of the time as well.
Hi. My question is
Hi.
my question is I'm trying to think of the best way to phrase it that kind of is time conscious, but I kind of wanted to ask about balancing out like being like a creative with, I guess, like kind of like working or like with like a 9 to 5, because for me, I graduated during the pandemic, and it's been good for me to like hear from other people, especially about like age and stuff like that, because I'm going through kind of like a quarter life crisis right now. And I'm going to be 25 next month. And I kind of just feel like I'm not necessarily where I would like to be, or where I thought I would at least be. So I'm kind of like trying to like figure things out, figure out, is it worth me at this time? Because when I came into this year, I was kind of thinking, I don't really feel like pursuing like creative things. I'm not sure if I should be right now. Should I be focusing more towards like a 9 to 5 and stuff like that? Because I was kind of looking at, I studied journalism, and then when I finished, I graduated literally during the pandemic, and then I went into radio, and I've been back and forth with radio, and then started like looking at podcasting, but it was just really tough. And then I looked for an internship at Sony, and then that didn't really pan out well. So since then, I've kind of just been like in a very weird space. I just wanted to ask you, do you think at this time, should I be looking more towards like focusing on like 9 to 5, or should I be focusing equally on like the creative side? I'm just kind of at a point where I'm a bit, I guess, confused on what to do.
Are you in terms of, do you want to, is it kind of making audio? Is that your creative thing? Is it kind of journalism and audio, or what's the creative thing that you do?
Yeah, so when I say journalism, I prefer like the broadcast side. So I did like documentary making, but I really liked radio. So when I graduated, I was able to kind of like shadow at like a radio station, and then I still basically have been doing that like on and off since like this year. But I think I just feel like it hasn't really gone anywhere. So
can I just say though, right? So it's okay. You're 25. It's really okay to not quite have nailed it yet. You know what I mean? I think that I graduated maybe a couple of years before you, but I was unemployed for a couple of years, and it was only doing a kind of course that I ended up getting a bit of direction. But I think don't panic is the main thing. You got another 50 years of working, pretty much. You know, I know, horrifying, isn't it? So I wouldn't panic. I think that you got to do what's right for you right now, and if that's getting something that's going to give you a bit of stability and some money while you dabble in audio, or do audio a day or two a week, or do some writing, that's totally fine. I mean, I think that wanting that, you know, I'm not going to say perfect job, but wanting the job that fulfills all of your commercial and creative desires right now, there's a lot of timing and good luck and all sorts of things involved in achieving that. And I think that as long as you're, I think, keeping your hand in with the thing that you love, whilst you're doing something else, that's fine, you know. But I definitely don't panic, right? Because you got plenty of time. You got plenty of time to work in radio or write or do whatever you want to do. But I would advise you to keep making stuff, whatever that is, you know, whatever that is, keep making stuff. And maybe could you do some volunteer work for some audio? Could you work in like hospital radio, for instance? Or there's lots of charities again that have like podcasts and audio streams. Then maybe you could think about doing that as well, you know, for the fun of it, and to do it because it's something that you love.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Don't panic, honestly, don't panic. You got so much time. You're so young. Honestly, just enjoy it.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay.
Thanks very much for that. Really insightful. Really love that. Thanks for sharing all of that, Russell.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me. Thank you for asking. I had
We
fun.
really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your day, Russell.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank
Bye
you.
all. Bye
And
all.
see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Ah, that was great, wasn't it?
Yeah, I really
Wow.
enjoyed
What a man.
You're like this.
Like we had a group therapy or something.
Love that. It's so good.
He was great. All right, so for my guys, we're just going to jump into a quick break. We'll come back at 35 minutes past. So I'll just put my Zoom link back into our mentor group, and I'll see you guys there. All right.
We'll do the exact same thing for my group. So yeah, back at 25 too. See you then.
Yeah, same with my group as well. So 3:35, we'll be back in the same Zoom call. See you in a bit, guys.
Thanks,
Okay.
everyone. See you later.
See you.
Bye.
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 Georgia.
Oh, yes.
Oh, can I just grab you?
Yeah, sure. Let me send you a link to a Google Meet.
Okay.
All right.
It doesn't take long.
All right. I just don't want to do it on here because I don't know who's still like on and not on. If there's
That's
anything.
fine. Don't worry.
I'll send you a Google Meet in a bit.
Thank you.
No worries.